that for Lynn. And we are just so thankful you're all here. I would like to introduce Lynn Policastro and just give her the reins for the rest of her presentation. So thank you.
Well, thank you, Jessica. I'm very excited to be with you guys today. I will have to say that I am a little bummed when I started doing this training. I was really excited about all the hands-on work that we were going to get to do. So hopefully you'll take some ideas from today and you'll be able to do something later with the programs that you're working with or even at home. So again, like Jessica said, I'm Lynn Policastro, and I'm with Wake County Smart Start. I'm the Healthy Initiatives Coordinator there. And for about the past 10 years, I've been working on a variety of different projects that really focus on helping childcare programs kind of start a healthy habit for young children. So again, it's been a variety of different programs, but I'm really been, really helping bring that to fruition for a lot of programs in a variety of ways. So before we get really started and kind of trying to get us in the mode, I know it's the afternoon and we just ate. So I have a little book that I want to read to us, and hopefully you guys can see it. I'm going to try really hard. But it's called Planting a Rainbow. Every year, Mom and I plant a rainbow. In the fall, we buy some bulbs and plant them in the ground. We order seeds from catalogs and wait all winter long for spring to warm the soil and sprout the bulbs. Then it's time to go to the garden center to select some seedlings. We sow the seeds and set out the plants in soil and watch the rainbow grow and grow and grow. We have some red flowers and orange flowers and some yellow blooms, and we grow something green and some blue flowers and some purple flowers too. And all summer long, we pick them and bring them home. And when summer is over, we know we can grow our rainbow again next year. So it's just a fun little way to get us kind of in the mindset of nature and creating this wonderful atmosphere that we're going to talk about that it's just exciting. So I thought that would be a good way to get us in the right mindset. So today, we're going to work on a couple of things. We're going to focus on understanding what a natural outdoor learning environment really looks like, and how nature and outdoor activities can really support STEAM. And then I hope that you leave with some resources on how to actually support this transition, so you can use this new space that we're going to talk about as an additional classroom and additional support for programs that you're working with, or programs that you might be in yourself. Or again, it might be your own home that you want to do some of these things with. So the first thing I'd like for you guys to do is, if you could, in the chat box, just write a couple words that, or one word of what you think of when you think about a typical playground. A childcare playground, or even a neighborhood playground. What are some of the things that you think about and you see when you do that? Oh, I love these. The laughter, the climbers, the swings, the different equipment, sands, being hot, I love that. Mulch, all kinds of stuff. Yes. Open spaces, exploring. I love the action words. Those are wonderful. Great, great. Well, keep them coming too. So these are, and some of these things are, again, I mean, very typical of what you're going to see in a playground. And some of the things that we talked about, and some of you guys mentioned, were slides, swing sets, and the big pieces of equipment. I don't know if I actually really heard anybody say that, but to me, that's like especially when I started working on a lot of these projects, the big climbers, you drive down the street and those are things that you can see, or when you're at a childcare program, those are the things that they've really spent a lot of money on. But when I like to highlight some of these things, and really focus on and look at what they really offer, you realize like these pieces of equipment and a lot of the things that are on a typical playground really don't offer a whole lot, and they take up a lot of space. Like, for example, like the swing down here, you know, you notice it only will handle 2 children, but with all the fall zones and all the space that it needs, it takes up a huge amount of space on a playground, but it only allows for 2 children to play. And there's only one action that they're doing, they're swinging, which of course a lot of kids love, but it takes up a huge amount of space. And then the big piece of equipment, which again, to me is so typical of what we were seeing in childcare programs. And one of the things I always do when I go to a program is really observe what the children are doing with the things that they have there. And so as I started really watching programs that had this big piece of equipment, I would realize, like, you know, it looks so exciting, it's so colorful, it seems like it has a lot going on. But then you start watching what the kids are doing, and they go up and they come right back down. There might be a variety of ways that they're going up or they're coming down, but that's really all they're doing. So this big piece of equipment, they get bored of really quickly. And so, you know, as many of you guys know, that's when a lot of the problems start happening. So what we're going to talk about today is a little bit of like how to make this transformation from what we think of as a typical space to a more natural space, so it can become this classroom, can become all these learning experiences. So I'm going to share a little bit of a few sites that we've worked with in Wake County and show you the transformations. So the first one you can see up here, very typical. Again, in the back, you see this, you know, big piece of equipment that we were just talking about. You know, huge, it takes up a lot of space. And then they also have this huge open space, which at first seems like a great idea too. I mean, you know, oh, kids love to run, you know, and it's a great space to have these extra activities. But again, it's a space that doesn't get used a lot unless, you know, teachers help prepare that space or bring out extra equipment, or they are the one initiating some of the activities. So there's a lot of wasted space out here. And then you see this transformation. And I always like to say, like, even when I throw up the picture, it just makes me a little bit calmer. I'm looking at the exact same point. This picture was taken at the same place, and it just feels like a park. It feels like just that you're dropped right into somewhere that you just have a calmer sense about you. And so some of the things I like to highlight are, one, which is very obvious, all the greenness. Now you have all this vegetation, all these opportunities for learning, really, because now you're going to watch the trees grow. You're going to talk about how big they're getting when the leaves change. You got your garden space that you may be changing out what's in there. And so you talk about what's growing, and you see it from beginning all the way to the end. And then another great thing that you have in here is your pathway. And what that allows is it just lends to being able to connect to other activities that are going on in the space. So off to the left, you can see kids, you know, the pathway leads to this other area now. And you can't really tell in this picture, but it actually leads to a hill that goes down and has a wide variety of activities down there now. Actually, there's the slide there as well now. So all these connectors are making different activities happen in this space, and just really providing some opportunities. And one of the things you can't really tell as well in this picture, but I'd like to share, is that that big piece of equipment that is over to the right in the top is still there. You can't really see it in the bottom photo, but basically, you know, they chose that that was something that they still wanted to keep, and obviously they had the space to be able to keep it. And so it's not that you have to take these things out, it's just that you work around it and create this more natural space. So the second site that I'd like to share is also in, you know, the first thing you notice is very similar. It has a big piece of equipment right smack dab in the middle as well. And this is a little bit smaller of a program. And then the bottom, you can tell the fence line actually goes straight back where you see this fence. So all this wasted space is used for like random activities when they first started, but they actually opened up this full space. So what I'd like to share with you guys is a short little video that actually comes from this site. And so not only do I want you to see the transformation and see how different it is and see what's going on in this space, but I also want you to really listen to what the director's saying of why she chose to do this and why all this work is so important to her. Of course, we'll get this rolling in a second. Technology is great when it works, right? So this is, again, I just wanted to share the whys of why they chose to do this. You can tell it was really something that they wanted to make a difference in the children's lives and make this a healthy habit for them, for their life. So I wanted to share, if you're not familiar with the National Learning Initiative, which is out of the design school at NC State, they are a huge piece of this work going on across our state and across the country and other parts of the world as well. But this is a virtual field trip that they have on their website, which includes the video that you saw, which with all the little buffers, it is a little bit clearer than what we had today. So if you want to see it again, and then there's a couple other videos. And then if you click on these different links, it actually gives you a little update on or a little bit sharing of information about each site and what each component of this whole playground is about. So before we really get started with some other stuff, I wanted to share kind of the transformation piece of it, as you've kind of see how this has happened in some of our sites. And it's wonderful that they've been part of projects, but it can happen in programs that are not involved in this project. And so if you don't mind, like, before we even get started, if you'll just in the chat box, what are some action words of things that when you think about an outdoor space, what do you want to see the kids doing out there? Not the pieces of equipment, but the things that you want to see them doing. So let's see. Yes, exploring, running, interacting, laughing, discovering, running, rolling, creating, having fun, exploring, digging, asking questions, just having fun. Yeah, I love this. Keep them going. These are great. So as we keep looking at these, so what I like to tell people when they're thinking about making this transformation is that, so this is the plan for the actual center that we were just looking at the video of a safe place. And so when they started this transformation, what they asked themselves, it's the same question I just asked you guys, what do we want to see these kids doing? And like, for example, things that you guys said, you know, running and riding your bikes. So that the pathway was the first thing we needed to put in so we could create that opportunity for those actions to happen. For exploring and creativity, we knew and they knew that they wanted to have an art area because they wanted to have that creativity. So what does that art activity area look like to them, and the materials that they added to it? They wanted kids to be able to explore. So they created these little, you know, pockets of like grasses and fun areas that the kids think they're kind of hidden, but the teachers can still see them. But it creates these opportunities for, you know, a fun place to get away and be, you know, engaged in the nature as well. So as you start thinking about what you want to share with programs and how you want to help them transform this space, really help them think about what they want to see. And this is a great little activity to make people think about what they want their kids to be doing. And I like to share, because we talked about earlier, the big piece of equipment. So as you can kind of notice, and I don't know if you can really see, but so on the left-hand side, the kind of looks like almost somewhat of a T, is their big piece of equipment they had at one time. They had this climber that we saw on that first slide. So that was originally going to be part of their plan. And then they decided about a year into it, as they started seeing children not really use that they had opened up the space, that they had all these other opportunities for them to play, that they weren't using that anymore. So they actually took that out. And now they have this huge loose parts area, and you know that changes with whatever's happening for the day. So they realized that was just something they wanted to change and didn't need anymore. There's so many more opportunities. So when you create these spaces and you have all these natural spaces, it just is an automatic learning of STEAM. And many of us know what STEAM stands for: science, technology, engineering, art, and math. I like to throw in the art. It just excites me. I love all that piece of it. So, and I naturally think that what is going on in these outdoor spaces are a part of that as well. But then I also you know, we think about it and think of so much as separation. But when I think about STEAM, I really think about it as a holistic approach to learning. So if we think about just looking at this picture right here, kind of a pollinator garden. And so it's not just, oh, we created this garden, it's a science lesson. It is so much more than so much more learning that goes on in one little space of outdoors. And again, it's all combined and holistic. No, so for this pollinator garden, yes, you know, they created and they planted these plants, and they also built a birdhouse. So not only are they going to see the birds, but they may also see the life cycle of a bird by, you know, being able to have it in that space. They're going to see the pollinators. They're going to understand the pollination, thanks to the questions that the teachers are going to ask. You know, engineering, they may actually be building a vine. So the kids can be involved in building the vine and actually having it in that space. So they have to think about how they're going to build it and how it's going to stay up when they build it. Math, again, is such a natural thing. Although, you know, the how tall things are going to get, you know, how long is it going to take to grow? You know, when is the right time to pick it? Those kind of things. And then art, just the sheer colors that come with a garden space are amazing, and just add the wonderful excitement of that. And then also pieces that you can add. So, you know, flags and creativity of artwork that children create can actually be part of this space as well. So really thinking about this as we go forward is really a holistic approach to how to add these activities into your space. So I have another quick little video trying to help visualize what this really all looks like of an actual classroom as well, and how they have actually really created these opportunities in this space. So this, I don't know, this, I mean, you see that I'm smiling halfway through this. It just excites me to see all that can happen. And one of the things I love about this video is the fact that if you heard the director say, you know, yes, they were lucky enough, they had this huge, amazing space and connected to a forest. And so they were able to have some of this, you know, one-on-one with the forest, but basically saying that you don't have to have that to actually have nature in your space. So, you know, as we were talking about, like, how do you do that? And how do you add these pieces in and make these opportunities happen? And then the other thing that I really like to highlight is what the, I'm sorry, I can't look at questions and talk at the same time. Is what the teachers are doing. So the questions that they are asking, they're expanding on what the children are saying, and what excitement that they are getting out of it. You know, they're at the end with the bug. They really, you know, oh, let's stop and let's pick this bug up and let's talk about it. And, you know, we learned the body parts and all that kind of stuff. So really engaging with the children. So that's the role that the teachers actually play in this environment a lot of the times. It's just going the next step. So now we're going to talk a little bit about, and just I'm going to show like some examples of some of the things that have been happening throughout some of the programs that I've been working with in Wake County, and how this integrates STEAM and some activities that way. So first of all, science just seems like, obviously, that it's just a natural. If you create a natural space, you're going to have so many opportunities for science. You know, if you have gardens, you're going to be learning about parts of the plants. You're going to be learning about what grows and how it grows, and what best way to grow things. I mean, you know, sometimes we have to move things from one place to the next. So you're really learning about, like, oh, that didn't have enough sunlight, or we gave it too much water or not enough water. So it really is the whole idea of, you know, predicting things and learning from what we're doing, and those kind of things. And so then you have all these opportunities for investigations. So if you're growing things, or if you're watching the birds, you're going to have these opportunities to observe things in action. And so you might have some kind of experiment. Like this one, these photos are actually of the sweet potato that they had in the classroom, but they were actually growing sweet potatoes out in their garden outside. So they were really asking all the questions of, you know, what do you think it's going to look like? How long do you think it's going to take? And then they watched it as it happened, and really learned the whole process. So there's so many opportunities for that when you have a natural space. And then one of the best opportunities really is that it's just so hands-on. It's right there. You just see the joy, you see the, you know, the learning that's going on in these two pictures. This little boy who, off to the left, who found a praying mantis. You know, yes, he could have seen these in pictures, he could have seen them in videos, but he was really experiencing that, that insect at the time. And so he's actually able to keep it for a little while and actually maybe observe kind of things about the, you know, the praying mantis and, you know, what they like to eat, or if he's eating on the leaf or that kind of stuff. So it's just so hands-on. And we all know that when you actually are able to dive into something, you're more likely to learn about it and remember it later on. And I love to tell the story about this little boy on the right. So this is one of our garden spaces, and this is kind of the end of the season. And he's loves some tomatoes. So they're little cherry tomatoes, and there's not a whole, well, there's actually quite a few still left on them, but they are they're getting a little skimpy. And right now in this picture, they're mostly green. And so by him being a part of, and this garden space being a part of his daily experiences, he knew that he did not like the green ones, and he really didn't like the yellow ones when they were yellow either. He knew what they were supposed to look like. He knew that the ones that tasted best to him were the red ones. So he would hop in there and he would filter through and find the right ones. So just having that experience, now he knows what, and you know, having these opportunities in their own space just creates all these opportunities for learning and loving, and you know, creating this lifelong desire for healthy habits and for the love of nature. Technology, which is a little bit harder to think about when you're thinking about, you know, the outdoor space, like how does technology play in all of this? And I'm going to show this in the background as I talk, but one of my centers actually had, and this is not their actual video, but I wanted to share. So they had a time-lapse camera that they actually had in their garden space, just very similar to this. So what they were able to see is the actual growth of, I think they were actually doing eggplants. So they got to see it from seed all the way to this beautiful eggplant. They got to see the flower grow, but they got to see it in action. And they got to see things like this, like the slugs that were, you know, eating on it. So then they thought like, okay, what are we supposed to do? So, you know, then the next step was like, how do we help the, you know, the plant? But one of the fun things about all of this is that one night they knew that there was going to be a storm coming. So they actually propped the camera up to the sky. So they got to see a lightning storm up close and personal that they probably really would not have been able to see otherwise, obviously for safety reasons. So it's just this opportunity, and it was a cool opportunity for these kids to really learn things differently. And just FYI, I kind of searched it. So if you're interested in a time-lapse camera, there are some really like off-brand ones that are less than $100 that you can use in spaces. So it could be used for more than just your gardens. It really could be like if you have like a bird house and you see that a bird is building something, you could put the camera there and really watch the whole process. That usually you can't get too close to the birds while they're, you know, laying and the babies are hatching and all that kind of stuff. So with the camera, you're actually able to really experience this. So it was a fun thing for the program to be involved with. And again, not so expensive activity that you could do yourself. And then engineering. We talked a little bit earlier about some of these skills, but engineering, the skills for early childhood programs are really, it's all about the cause and effect and trial and error and trying things and seeing what works and what doesn't work. And like for these guys right here in the middle, you know, they created this ramp and they were trying to figure out which ones were going to go down faster, were the large pieces, or if you notice on the ground, the smaller pieces. So they tried a couple different things. You know, they raised it, they even lowered it, but you know, they were really learning from, you know, all the exposure that they had. And so having all these loose parts out there, and loose parts are kind of, there can be a wide variety of things. They could be small things like we see in some of the baskets of materials like to the right, or it can be large things like these pieces of wood cookies or the big planks of wood, you know, large sticks, bamboo, those kind of things. Because yes, those kids created this ramp today, but tomorrow or even this afternoon when they go outside to play, it's going to be a whole new experience. So that's one of the things about not having, you know, really set activities, is that they are going to create the opportunity for learning. And again, like we talked about, the teacher's role is to kind of ask these questions like, you know, so what do you think would make it go faster? And so see what the kids would think, like, oh, should we put it higher? Should we put it lower? You know, if we did different material, you know, down it, would it go faster or slower? So really helping them think through some of this and extend their learning. It, again, is what the teacher's role in all of this is. And the little bug hotel, I just have to show this. It might not completely fall in the engineering piece of things, but it's in the building of it. But these are great in your pollinator gardens. And basically, you're just giving little in nooks and crannies and other materials that insects and birds and all that can use to create their own little homes, so they can actually pollinate your garden. And you need those that actually have a really good garden. And then of course, like the rocks over here, that's just wonderful little activity, because, you know, they learn like, oh, I can't put the tiniest one on the bottom. I have to really build in a certain method to keep it from not falling. And then again, these materials, I can't say enough about the loose parts, how important that is for the learning. And a lot of people say like, oh, I'm really scared about having these big limbs. Like, what's gonna do? I'm scared they're gonna hurt each other. They're gonna use it for the wrong reasons. And I can understand that. And so, yes, if you feel comfortable with that, that's great. And those are the things that you can have available. And it may depend on the ages that you're working with too, like what space, like, okay, yeah, I could feel like my school age kids might be able to handle some big, pieces of things like this. But then you notice up here at the top, this little girl, it's the same concept, but they're a lot smaller pieces. So she's had to figure out how to make this teepee, how to make it stand up. So many times she had to, trial and error to make sure that, like, oh, it might need more than 3 sticks. Oh, I got to separate them so many, inches apart from each other, or it's not going to stand up. So it's really helping them problem solve of like, oh, what does it take to make this thing really stand up and be a structure for me. And then down here at the bottom is a cool little activity that is just, just some limbs, little branches, and you could do it in a variety of different ways. Like this could be a cool thing you have inside, or you could actually have like to the whole idea of what's the best material for it to stick together. So maybe you have a variety of different glues. So you have like some mud, you have some, clay, you have, some wet sand. Or let the kids kind of think about like, what do you think would be the best glue for our cabin to stick together? So it's a great little activity for them to kind of problem solve and think. And again, you learn just as much from things not working as they do working sometimes. So let them, sometimes fail is a good lesson as well. And then art, like I shared earlier, this just always makes me happy. So the colors that go with a garden are just, a natural excitement. And then the loose parts that can come off of your trees and your flowers. And one of the things people always say when they start their garden is like, oh, the kids are going to pick it. And then we're not going to have it anymore, which can be true at the beginning. And so they may pick your flowers because they're excited about it as well. And kids don't understand like, oh, if I pick it right now, it's not going to come back. So it's so funny, the programs that I work with, usually there's always a kind of a police of the gardens, because they've learned themselves that like, oh, I picked it and it didn't come back for another 6 months, or maybe another year it didn't come back. So they are the ones who say, no, you're not supposed to pick that right now. Or in even a garden space, like, oh, that strawberry's not ready, is not red yet. So you're going to have your own helpers in that situation as well. But it's okay if they go away. And those leaves and those stems and those flowers are part of the loose materials as well. So let them enjoy those and let them be part of the work that they do. So like this, this picture of the little girl made out of leaves and flowers to the left is such a cool little, piece of artwork, really. And it just makes me smile when I see it. But they created that in the morning, and then in the afternoon, it could be fairy soup, because they used all those loose parts for a whole nother activity. So it might not be art anymore at all. It could really be part of their mud kitchen, and they're using those as, their soup. So it's just fun. And so take advantage of the things that you have, like here in the middle, use the colors, use the flowers that you have, use the, old pieces of produce that are in your garden, to create, some watercolors, and do some painting outside, or even when you get inside, but using natural materials to create the colors. And then this weaving is just really kind of fun. This is a really kind of a big time one because they kind of build it into the trees, but you could actually do it on your fenced space or by using like the large stalks of things that have gone bad or pieces of things that they find on the outdoor space. A lot of these in this photo are like the stems of some older sunflowers, so they were longer, but you can do smaller versions of these kind of things. And then when you think about art, you also think about music. And I always like to share when I think about natural outdoor spaces and think about that as an extension of the classroom or a whole nother classroom outside, is I always like to say that what you can do indoors, you can do outdoors, and you can usually do it bigger or better. So as you notice, like these chimes, you're obviously not gonna have chimes that big in your classroom. You don't want that much noise going on in your classroom. So you're able to have noises and sounds and joy from this music that you might not, it might not be quite as much of a joyful thing inside because of how much noise it can make. So providing those opportunities for music as well outside, and using natural things as well to do that. And then just like science, math is such, I mean, you know, learning opportunities are just abundant, you know, everywhere you look. On a playground in a natural outdoor space. So measuring, there's tons of opportunities for measuring if you're growing things, you know, to compare yourself to the wonderful sunflowers that are growing. And I like to share a real life really use for the scale. So yes, the center has a scale in their garden and the children use it for a math activity because they're actually, you know, obviously weighing as they pick the produce, but they're also, because this corn is actually going back into the center and actually going to be used in their meals. So the teachers are actually writing down the actual poundage, and that's what they use for their food program. So the kids are really being part of the work that's going on in the center. So now it's not just like, oh, it's a math activity. It's actually, oh, we're really, you know, creating and helping support the work that goes on. So I love to think when we go back to this holistic approach that, you know, it's not just activities, it's really supporting the work of the day-to-day things that need to go on in your center, and let children be a part of that. And this is a great way to do that. And then of course patterns, you know, you can use the natural loose things that fall from the trees or fall from wherever to actually create like pattern cards. But then nature is just so full of so many patterns that it's hard not to be able to use those as just natural experiences as well. You know, a stump here, you know, being able to show the pattern of the ridges and to help them understand that every circle is a year in the life of that tree, and just, you know, helping, again, you know, you chop it down and now you have this, or even a wood cookie, and help them like, oh, how old was this tree when it was chopped down? And then just like, I mean, there's just so many opportunities, and some of this is, you know, teacher-based that, you know, they would kind of help support as, you know, some of these things are collected and you're sorting them and you're using these loose materials in your program, you know, to think about, you know, how, again, ask those questions like, oh, which one of these leaves is the biggest? Which one is the shortest? Which one's the longest? Which one's the, you know, the smallest? You know, oh, what did we find today? Let's graph it. Let's figure out how many leaves we found today. I love that in the middle is like the rubbish that we found. So sometimes it might not all be natural stuff that you're finding. So they might be helpers to clean up your space as well. So again, there's just so many opportunities for learning, and that's holistic approach to being able to have a space that provides these opportunities. So what I thought I would do, since I can't be with you in person, and I really wanted us to be able to do a lot of hands-on stuff, which is like my love. So we're gonna do something that I think that you might be able to do at home or with a childcare program that's really easy. It's kind of some seed starters. So I'm gonna share like two, I'm gonna try my hardest to get my camera to do this. So we're gonna show like some ways that two different seed starters that you could do with programs. So let's see if we can do this. So the first one is just using a, so you would just use like a 2-liter bottle. And basically this is like a, it's a rewatering kind of, it's not really a seed starter, but you would start the plant in there. So you're just going to cut it in half. And I'm not going to totally do it, but you would cut this in half. And what you would need to do, whoa, sorry for the loudness. And then you would need to take the lid, because that's going to be your little spout. So what you would need to do is actually punch holes in it. And thankfully, my daughter actually showed me this, but you can actually use a lighter and you soften it, the lid up, the top of it, and then you use a little pick or the tip of a knife and actually create the holes for this. And it worked amazing. And you only had to hold it for just a few seconds. And then so you punch that in, or screw that together. And what this would do is you would, so the bottom, you would actually place your water in here, and the top is where you would actually plant. So you would have soil in here and your plant. So this is a wonderful, and then you would just stick it on top and it would self-water itself. Of course, occasionally you would need to fill the water up at the bottom. But this is a great activity to do like in the classroom or like in the windowsills. So you could do it there, and then you could actually plant it inside of your garden when it's ready. But it's a fun thing that you can actually watch while it's happening. And then another great one and a very easy one, and we probably all have these sitting around right now, or this is actually a paper towel roll, but you could do it smaller. And you just need to make it small. You cut a small piece. So even if it was a toilet paper roll, it would be about half the size. And then you would do 4 little marks in there. Try to make them even, which I didn't do a hugely great job about that. And then you just fold them down. And so now you're creating this little pod that you would put your soil inside of here, and then you would plant your seeds in here. And so what's wonderful about these is that you can actually, because it's cardboard, you can actually place it right into the ground because it will decompose and you don't have to worry about it. So it's a wonderful, wonderful, easy thing to do for seed starters. So as soon as you start seeing it sprout up a little bit, then you would place it into a big pot or into the ground. So those are 2 really fun, easy things that I think that you could do yourself. So I hope that at least you are going to walk away with a little something that you can do. Now let's see. I'm going to pop back into my slides.
Okay. Lynn, you'll have to share again.
Okay, there we go. I got it. Thank you, Jonathan. And so, okay, so those are, so now those are what they look like after you're done. So just a fun little thing. The only thing the kids probably really couldn't help you with would be the punching of the holes and the lighter piece of it. But then some other great little opportunities, and I'm really about some recycled materials, is creating your own little terrariums. So these terrariums could be out of just about any kind of material that has like some kind of dome, and usually something that has a clear. One of the things I found that works really, really well are like the rotisserie chickens that you get from the grocery store. So it's nice, you plant inside of it, and then once you see it start sprouting, then you take it out and you put it into your garden space. So it's a wonderful, easy thing to do that you can do in your classrooms, and then transplant. And then I just like to say, so as you're doing this, have fun and be creative about how you're doing this and how you're creating natural spaces. I mean, you could start and make this huge transformation like some of the things that we've seen. Again, that was not overnight. So, you don't want to think that's going to happen overnight for you. But you could do it with these small things, and just do some small, fun, colorful pots. Use something unique to plant your materials in, like these cute little boots. And in the middle are just some herbs. And this is a great one, like for people who don't have a huge amount of space. So they don't want to take a huge amount of space, like in a play area. You can hang it on the fence, you can hang it on the back door, but the herbs keep regrowing itself. So it's a cool little thing. And then the top right is always a really fun one if you're going to actually really plant something. It's a pizza garden. So if you can tell, it's little slices. So the slices have all the things you need for your garden, for your pizza. So it could have peppers, could have the herbs, could have onions, and of course your tomatoes to make some sauce. And just, it's a fun, creative way to, help get everybody excited about starting a garden. And then down here at the bottom, this little boy is just a fun example of why herbs are such a wonderful thing, even if you're not going to use them for cooking, to have in your open space, in your natural spaces. As you can tell, he's smelling it. He's obviously rubs his fingers down it. It's rosemary, and it grows extremely fast. And it's wonderful for all spaces, but herbs are a really cool thing to do in infant spaces because they're crawling around, the senses are being used, and you're not worried if they pull it and they eat it because it's food. And so, it's edible and you don't have to distress about that kind of stuff. But the smells that come from herbs are just a wonderful addition to any outdoor learning space. So I'm going to share a few little resources, and then we're going to have some time for some questions. But I would like to share that, so our Wake County Smart Start actually has a Pinterest board with lots of ideas, but I have actually put a lot of the ideas we shared today, plus many, many more on the STEAM Learning Activities page. And then up at our Natural Outdoor Learning Environments page has lots of resources on how to add different components and, do some of that yourselves. Lots of great ideas about how to, slowly transition into making this space available. And then I'm going to say again, the natural learning environment has an abundance of resources to make this a transition for you and really help you be able to do it on your own. The green desk is where a lot of their resources are. So not only do they have a lot of how-tos on doing gardening spaces, building your pathways, constructing teepees, but lots of other resources out there too, some actually recipes too that go along with what you're growing in your garden. And then the Growing Minds from ASAP is another great resource because they have some wonderful lesson plans that really walk through, and usually they're using some kind of book like the Planting the Rainbow that goes along with some kind of lesson. So it's a great little, it's a wonderful resource all the way around. So if anybody has any questions, I know we have about 5 minutes or so, but I hope that was engaging. I miss being with all of you guys and being able to do some stuff on with all our hands. So maybe at some point we'll be able to do that again. So thanks for having me. So let's see.
Hi, for anyone who has questions, we can unmute your mics. If you type in your question, we'll know whose mic to unmute. Or you can unmute your own mic and we'll just.
Somebody just asked about the copying of the presentation, and that will be available. They're going to put that up on NCPC's website. And I'm going to share my contact information too. So feel free, as you're making these changes, feel free to contact me, and I'll be glad to share some of the things the good things and the bad things that have happened along the way in our county. But love to share all the resources that we've been able to use. And if you have any questions about how we did it or any of that kind of stuff, I'll be glad to share that.
Hi, Lynn. It looks like we do have a question about how how all of this can be adjusted to adhere to the ECHRD standards. A person said, there could be an issue with hand washing or obstructive view with children, and they're wondering how you go about following the rules but making sure this happens.
So, I mean, so one of the things that, I mean, you will, you know, as people start making some of these transformations in their space, you know, always talking to your child care consultant, because, you know, they're the ones, you know, supporting the child care programs. But the ones that we've worked with, we've worked through a lot of this. You know, as you probably saw in the first video that we had at a safe place, they were actually eating from their garden. You should have some kind of source of just rinsing the items off outside. But as long as they're rinsed, they should be able to be eaten outside. So a lot of it, again, I hate to say, because it's also different from county to county, or even from consultant to consultant sometimes. So just making sure you touch base with them about some of these changes as you're doing it. I will say that the second video, there's lots of things that we probably can't do in North Carolina unless it's an outside the fence, and, you know, and more of a field trip kind of situation. Because if it's inside the space, there's more regulations. So again, just kind of asking those questions as you're making these changes would probably help.